Welcome everybody to another episode of Pictures on the Scorecard. My name is Seth McWhorter. I'm a graphic designer working in the golf industry, and as always, I'm joined by Robbie Woodard, co-founder of Best Ball Media. Tonight on this show, we're going to be talking about animals, and specifically our favorite animals. Our favorite animals that are featured as golf logos. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and we could talk about animals a lot. But yeah, we're going to stick to golf and talk about some of our favorite. We narrowed it down to 5, each of us. We haven't talked about what we chose, and so let's start top 5, or there's not really any order, but 5 golf logos that we like that feature animals. Robbie, I'm going to throw it to you first. You can kind of set up however you want to, but everybody loves a good animal logo.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. We talk about golf and animals and stuff. I do have to point out Minwoo Lee when he was playing at Pinehurst in the Open, and he sees a fox squirrel for the first time, and he was like, "What is that? Is that a raccoon, a skunk?" And then you see
they are large.
And different color. I mean, if you've never seen one, it's a mystery. But anyway, I'll start. I'm wearing a hat, Old Barnwell. I've got to start there. I think the use of the owl in their logo is really good. I talked to Morgan Purvis, who was kind of the director of partnerships at the time. I think he just left to go do something we're not sure of yet. He hadn't released that, but kind of the play on Barnwell, Barn Owl. And yeah, just turned into the logo. If you've heard about it, Old Barnwell in Aiken, South Carolina, an incredible new course. It's been open for 10 months now, the first 18, and they're still building the clubhouse and some lodges. They're building a kids course that they're putting sod and stuff in now. So a really great place. The mission about the course is the coolest thing. So if you haven't checked out Old Barnwell, do that. But I got to start with that one, the owl logo for Old Barnwell.
Yeah, well, that was a giveaway when you signed on, and I saw the hat. But I love that logo. I think it's extremely well done, and it's already very recognizable and memorable in the golf industry. One thing that I look at from a design standpoint, it's very modern, it's very abstract, which I appreciate, and I think a lot of people gravitate towards it because of that. They could have gone with a very literal depiction of an owl, but they didn't, and I think it's all the more memorable for that. And that's going to be a theme for mine, and I'll jump into my first one. I've talked about this logo, I think, on this podcast, but the Creek up in Locust Valley, New York, C.V. McDonald course, built in 1922. In 1923, New York Times called it the $1 million golf club because it was a hub of very wealthy New Yorkers. But their logo, famously, if you know it, is a sandpiper sort of mid-step holding a golf club under its wing. And I can't say that I have a long relationship with this logo. I've never played the course, never been up there, but it is a very striking logo for a couple of reasons. And again, you'll start to see some themes. But there's multiple elements at play. We've got the golf imagery, but it's not so overt and beating you over the head with it. And then it also speaks to something somewhat unique about the course or the area, which is something that obviously I appreciate and something I try to build in my work is identify that unique aspect. But the Creek, the other thing about the Creek logo, when it's accompanied by text, the text actually complements the logo, which is something that I think some courses fall short of, where it's sort of an afterthought. The Creek text is pretty awesome, but I think the logo is great. It works in all colors, and it's very, very memorable.
Very nice. Yeah, and we will post if you're watching the visual version of this on YouTube, we'll have these things pop up as we go. So my second one, a lot of these were inspired because we do the Whole Story podcast, and one of the questions we ask each of our guests, Seth, I don't even remember, or I don't know if you remember one of your answers. I won't say it, but we ask everybody favorite logo, and so some of these were inspired by these, but one of my favorites, of course, I'd love to go play Goat Hill Park out in Oceanside, California. John Ashworth, big part of that, but we've had Matt Janella and Michael Verska on the podcast, on the Whole Story podcast. Each of them are in the San Diego area. They love it. It's an incredible, taking it, the O in goat, or Oceanside, however you want to put it, and having the goat kind of perched up on top of there. I just think it's a really cool logo. If you see it on a shirt, it's kind of right in the center, very, I don't want to say symmetrical, but it has a clean, different look to it than what your traditional golf courses have. So, highly recommend Goat Hill Park. I think a part of what makes the logo cool is just the stories of what everybody talks about with the atmosphere and just the hangs that happen out at Goat Hill. So, that's I don't know if it's in any order, but that's number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I love that. It was on my sort of working list, and it didn't fall off for any reason other than I forgot it. I think it's awesome. It's so cool. I think it's extremely striking, and again, it has multiple elements that sort of work together and tell different aspects of the story. So yeah, that's a great one. Goat Hill Park. Cool. So I'm going to go. This one, actually, I didn't really anticipate this would be one of my favorites, but it's not something that I think about a lot. Kapalua Plantation in Hawaii. Corin Crenshaw, built in 91. I was immediately sort of struck by it. It'd been sort of hidden in plain sight for a while. It's a butterfly with a pineapple in the negative space. This logo doesn't get talked about a lot as sort of by nerdy golf logo aficionados like myself, but it's really neat. It's again 2 elements at play here. Something that is just a butterfly is kind of an inherently interesting shape, but hiding the pineapple in it is really neat and talks to the history of that property. I have memories of this course from Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2004 video game. I remember when I bought that game on Xbox, and I was like pretty early on in high school, or maybe I don't know if that's the first one I got, but anyway, this course was featured on it, and it's the most scenic, incredible course. There's some great history there. Obviously, they've had the what's now the Century Tournament of Champions. But in the past, I remember there was a duel between Tiger and Ernie Els back in 2000. I believe it was the Mercedes Championship. But yeah, it's got that iconic par 5 finishing hole that I can kind of picture in my head. But the logo, again, I didn't really expect this to be on the list, but I think it's one that's worthy of mention.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I love how you describe it, being a graphic designer, the negative space piece of that. Everybody else probably thinks it's like overlaid or whatever, but anyway, that's a good one. All right, so next one on my list, I did not go with a goat theme on purpose, but I'm going Lahinch Golf Club over in County Clare, Ireland. I just think I think it's a cool having the goat. I think Irish course, a lot of history to it. Matt Adams again was one of our guests on. He's Fairway of Life, so well known in the golf world, but he was a guest on the podcast. He talked about this as just one of his favorite courses ever. And I was doing a little research about the goats of Lahinch, and they were there to help kind of just keep the grass down. It said the goats, here's a quote on the site, the goats were a great guide to the weather at Lahinch. If they were seen hovering around the clubhouse, the weather prospects were not good. But once the goats made their way out to the outer regions of the sandhills, then weather prospects were good, and the day was sure to be fine. So I just think it was cool taking animals that were local, and incorporating that into a logo. I mean, it's a decent logo, but I think, again, just the elements of the story, the location, and probably a desire to want to go play it factor into, let's put this one on the list.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's great. I especially love the, and I'm familiar with this one. Again, it wasn't one that was kind of top of mind, but I think that it's really interesting. I think that the execution of the goat itself is pretty awesome. There's a lot going on around it, but I agree. The story is really interesting, and I think that's half of the charm in it. But that's a great one. So for my, what is this? My third one is I'm going. I would be astounded if people have heard of this course. It's called Little Mole Run, or Lil Mole Run, in Mentone, Alabama. I cannot say that I've played this course. I've driven past it many times on my way from Rome, Georgia to Sweetens Cove, and I have friends that have played it and are very familiar with it. But it's an 18-hole par 71 course. Designer is unknown, in Mentone, up on top of Lookout Mountain. And I would encourage anyone that's unfamiliar with it, which let's just say it, you are unfamiliar with it, to Google it. It is a mole in a tuxedo, because why not, leaning against a pin flag. And I don't really know anything about the story behind it, but I love it. I think it's just an example of really taking a risk and leaning into quirkiness and fun, which is something that, again, I like in my work when it's possible. I think golfers and people in the golf industry sometimes take themselves and the game way too serious, and they're trying to manufacture this sort of untouchable, this untouchable air around golf courses. But Lil Mole Run just leans right into the fun, and I would encourage y'all to check it out. They don't really have any tournaments of note that I could find. They do have like a senior scramble on Wednesdays that I'm sure is a great crowd, but go check that one out.
I feel like we should have been doing a snake draft format here. So I wonder if I keep, I haven't taken any of yours. I did not have Lil Mole Run in my list,
Yeah.
but why don't you go ahead and drop your next one?
All right, cool. So this is one that I've talked about in the past, I believe on this podcast, but Maidstone in East Hampton, New York. It's a Willie Park. It's actually it was Seth Rayner actually drew plans for it apparently, but Willie Park designed it, and Corin Crenshaw reworked it several years ago. But Maidstone is it's a whale, and it's awesome. It's very imperfect. It looks like it was sort of hand drawn on a napkin or something like that, and they didn't really feel the need to go in and perfect it and smooth out lines and all that kind of stuff. And I think that there's so much charm in that, and it's really hard to reverse engineer or manufacture something like that. But the imperfection is what, in my opinion, makes it awesome. Other than the fact that it's a whale, and you don't see a lot of whale golf logos. Again, super old money, luxury New York club. It's a really neat one, but it's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, that is actually the course you did mention on the Whole Story podcast when we had you on there. So I was hoping that was going to be in your list.
Yep. That was this one, and my last one are probably somewhat predictable, but I think Maidstone will always be one of my favorites.
Okay, for my fourth, I'm going Mammoth Dunes. Part of the Dream Golf Resort there, Sand Valley Golf Resort. It's a cool logo. I mean, to have a mammoth on your on a hat, on a shirt, and the way they describe it when they're David McClay Kidd, I think was the architect, and just said the dunes here were mammoth, right, as he was building the thing. And everybody I've talked to that has played any of the Sand Valley courses, they can't get enough of it. They want to go back. Again, it's on the bucket list with lots of other courses, but just a really cool logo. The mammoth there, I think if you had it on, again, a hat or a shirt, you would wear that proudly, being able to say, I played one of the country's best courses. So, yeah, Mammoth Dunes.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's definitely a theme with you. You're really angling for invites to some of these places. I can get us on Lil Mole Run, but I don't know about any of the other ones. Now it's a great logo. That's one where I think again it's so striking just simply because of what it is. The only thing I would love to see is just a little bit more I don't know thought put into the typography, because I think it's one of those things. It's just like if you're going all in with a woolly mammoth as the logo, then let's make sure every single piece of this is perfect. But no, it's a great one, and I haven't been up there either, so I really shouldn't say anything about it other than it's awesome.
Yeah, no, fair statement. Fair statement.
Cool. You want to go again?
Yeah, I'll go. The last one, again, another guest talked about this one. Sam, the guy who does the golf songs, the piano songs and stuff, asked him, "Hey, what's a great logo?" And he drops the Golf Club of Fox Hills over in Surrey, England, and he described it, and I looked it up, and it's a fox in, like, I don't know, kind of the old school golf attire, just standing there leaning on a golf club. And it's kind of the classic, but mixed with an animal, you blending the name. Just really cool. Course there, he loves it. But they're in Surrey, England, Golf Club of Fox Hills. So we'll give Sam Harrop a shout out there for recommending that one.
Yeah, I had to look it up as we were talking because I'm not familiar with this one. It's great. Yeah, we talk about charm and memorability. That fox is all of the above.
That says an English course right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's great. I love the Argyle detail on his sweater. Cool. Well, I love that. I by no means think that I know every golf logo. But that one was truly a surprise. So that's great. Well, staying on the Fox theme for my last one, Myopia Hunt Club, up in Hamilton, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. 1882, old history, a lot of history. Old club, 4 U.S. Opens. I think 4 of the first 14, something like that, U.S. Opens were played at Myopia, and it's got an interesting history of the name too. I did a little bit of digging, so someone can fact check if there's people listening to this and want to fact check. I think that's awesome. But myopia means it's like nearsightedness. It's poor vision, and the way it reads on a couple different sources, one of them, of course, is Wikipedia, is that it was founded by some guys that wore glasses, and that was sort of something they all had in common. I saw that a slightly differing story, but again, it's a really cool logo. It's a fox, this very sort of detailed. Obviously this doesn't show up when you stitch it on shirts and apparel, but it's a really detailed hand engraving of fox with a trumpet or a bugle, whatever you want to call it, above it. And again, it's kind of one of those things where it's 2 separate elements, but it all hangs together. And the version with the actual typography, the club name on it, does have some character too, so it checks that box. I think it's just one of the most striking golf logos out there. One interesting fact about that: the second U.S. Open they played at at Myopia at 1901, nobody broke 80, it's a course that's renowned for how difficult it is. But that's been on a bucket list for a long time, and the logo lives up to that history.
Yeah. Well, I do think we should give a shout out, the thought of animal logos. I mean, obviously we've talked about this before, but maybe this is one of the routine par segments, but, talking about the Sand Valley courses, Sedge Valley just opened there, and they have a fox logo. So they've been, I guess this will be Monday when this comes out. This past week while we were recording it, I think it opened yesterday on July 1st. So that was kind of the, I would say inspiration for, hey, let's actually do this, talk some animal logos. Congrats to those guys. Excited to, again, when we go play Mammoth, we can go play Sedge and all the other great ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's one, golly, I didn't think there's this many Fox logos in the golf world, but there's another one that was on my list that's a Lee Wybransky creation, River Bend Club outside of DC, which I couldn't find a ton of history on it other than the fact that it was started by a large contingent of people that work for the CIA. And in the 2015, 2016, I think, according to their website, is when some members got together and hired Lee Wybransky to do a logo for them. And it's a fox sort of slyly walking on two legs in a trench coat in true CIA spy fashion. And it's awesome. It's a great, that could have easily been in my list, but that's a good one that, again, doesn't get enough love. I feel like, and this is true, I think, of any golf logo or golf brand. It's the history of the club and everything around the course, the designer, the championships they've hosted, all that kind of stuff that plays into how memorable the logo is. Very rarely do you see just an awesome logo for a terrible course. But that's one where it tells a story. It makes me want to ask questions and learn more, which I think is the hallmark of any great golf logo.
Did you have any that kind of made the honorable mention list?
Yeah, there's several. Monterey Peninsula was one. The Dragon, whatever it is. I don't know the history of that one. It was definitely up there. There's some Rabbit, Waterville, I think. The Rabbit. There's just so many good ones. I think the five that I chose were simply because I knew I needed to get to five. But as we talk about this stuff, there's a whole host of great animal logos.
Yeah, a couple that stood out to me. One, your logo for Spay Bay was really good. It still is really good, I should say. But Tullamore there in North Carolina, the use of the llama. How many courses use that? Stonewall Links uses the cow with the golf club in his mouth. And then another one, this one maybe has a little asterisk beside it. But Wildwood Golf Course in Portland has a Sasquatch. It's a really cool logo. I think, our buddy Squid Designs told us about that one as just a place where it's as fun as you think it would be with a Sasquatch as a logo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the theme that carries throughout all these is the ones that we picked, at least. It's like it highlights something that is unique to their club, or to that course or to that property. And I think they're the ones that we don't talk about, the animal logos that we don't talk about are, probably weren't thought they probably weren't thought about very hard before they were selected, and some of the details were probably overlooked. It was probably like, hey, we have a lot of alligators on our property. But, when you start telling a story about one particular alligator or one particular, owl or whatever it is, that's when things get interesting. And then when you combine it with another element that, again, extends that story and makes it a little bit richer, I think that's when a lot of magic happens, because these things exist, in my opinion, to serve as doors to stories and to connections. And so the more unique and interesting they are, the more successful they are, in my opinion.
I completely agree. So, you got any other routine par thoughts or anything cool out there that you've seen?
No, not off the top of my head. We're in that kind of lull right before the last major of the year. It's the dog days of summer, no pun intended, with the animal theme. But I've had kind of my head down, working hard these past few weeks, trying to get through this first part of the summer, and yeah, I haven't put a ton of work in this. I'll be the first to admit.
No worries. I do think it's cool to point out Sugarloaf Social Club has merged with the Pro Shop. The folks that have done, oh gosh, blanking on the name of the golf Netflix series.
Oh yeah, geez, we're gonna have
Full
to edit this
swing.
part.
Oh,
Full
yeah.
swing, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. That's what happens when you try to think on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've come together, and yeah, Sugarloaf Social Club is going to be a big part of the Pro Shop.
Yeah, I've always been so impressed with everything they put out and the way they built the community around their, I don't know, brand is probably the worst way to describe it. They have just kind of a community that they've generated around something very special and unique in the golf world, and I think it's neat to see, and it's kind of inevitable that somebody would come along and really try to capitalize on that and perhaps give it a broader reach.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, that was fun. I think periodically we're going to do some of these type shows where we're going to pick a theme and just talk about courses and clubs through the lens of their logos, and like Robbie mentioned earlier, we'll post all these so you can kind of visualize them as you follow along, because I think some of them, especially Lil Mole Run, it's pretty obscure, so you'll probably need a prompt on that one.
But for those that do listen, give us some more Lil Mole Run courses out there that have great animal logos that we need to see.
Yeah, I love it when I see something I haven't seen before, and I know there's 16,000 golf courses in the United States. There's a lot of logos that I've never seen. So share it with us. Tell us what your top 5 is, and maybe we'll put that prompt out on social to get some more of that interaction.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Well, it's been fun.
Yeah, well, as always, I can't believe this show exists. It is so fun to be with you and talking about creativity in the golf world. And I hope you enjoyed this show, and I hope you'll join us for the next round of Pictures on the Scorecard.